Hey guys, Marc Seymour from TRG here. Thanks for joining me today for the riteSCAN deep dive into pallet management. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to sign in straight off, and as per normal, we find ourselves presented with the riteSCAN inventory screen. So as mentioned, today we are looking at pallets. What does riteSCAN mean by pallets or pallet management? Effectively, we are allowing for the creation of a single ID, which could be held in a barcode, onto which we can link multiple stock items, potentially with multiple lots or multiple serials, if those are used, and their relevant quantities. And when transacting any of those pallets or associated IDs, we only need to enter a single ID to perform the transaction for all included. So let's take a look at what that looks like. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with pallet maintenance, just to give you an idea how a pallet could be manually constructed. Now, riteSCAN allows for the automatic generation of pallets, or you can go ahead and generate them yourself, depending on your preference. Let's just pop this in the FG warehouse, and I'm going to select a status of in inventory. Just a note, you will not be using pallet maintenance typically for the creation of pallets. But I'm going to go ahead and create that pallet. It's in inventory. It is empty. We're going to go ahead and add some stock. In this case, I'm just going to use an A100 in a quantity of 10. And I would like to add a B100 in a quantity of 5. Right, so what we have in front of us is pallet 00203. And we have it sitting in finished goods. It's got an A100 and a B100 in a quantity of 10 and 5. So we are going to save that, and we are going to now take a look at how a particular pallet can be used throughout the various riteSCAN module sets. So let's go back to something simple and take a look at a warehouse transfer. One, we jump into a warehouse transfer, and immediately we can see that this interface is configured to ask for a pallet. And here, all we need to do is we scan our pallet. If we like, we can browse, see the contents of that pallet, and here all we need to do is enter our new destination, warehouse and bin, post that through, and riteSCAN will transfer that pallet and post through to SYSPRO the individual lines, lots, serials, and associated quantities in a single move. Okay, so very simply makes it a hell of a lot easier for operators to process transactions quickly. If we think about what that would look like in the absence of a pallet ID, the operator would have to process the transaction individually for each stock code. Okay, so there's a very basic method of using pallets within the organization. Pallets are available through all follow-on modules, whether bin transfer or stock take. Stock take, very simple. Stock takes created. Now I would scan my pallet and I would post, and riteSCAN again would push all the contents and quantities of the items on that pallet into the SYSPRO stock take tables. Again, saving a huge amount of time should you have mixed pallets with varying quantities. riteSCAN also introduces with pallet management some really powerful features, that being referred to as pallet staging. Pallet staging is quite simple. What I want to do is I would like to build up a pallet, potentially save it, or use it in a follow-on transaction. So what do I mean by that? Let's take a look at WIP. Very simply, I am an operator that functions in a raw materials or a job issuing capacity. If need be, I can create myself a new pallet. I can stipulate what warehouse I'm in. Let's use SA and SA. And here I can enter the job number. riteSCAN will immediately look to SYSPRO and pull forward the required job allocations. At this point, I very simply can go ahead and scan the stock onto the pallet. If I'm pulling it from a bin, I could specify the bin I'm pulling it from, the quantity, and save that. Now what's going to happen here is riteSCAN is using the job allocations as a validation point and as a guide for what the operator needs to pick and stage onto the pallet. And ensuring that the quantity required is met and exceeded or not exceeded. Here we can see that a quantity of 12 has been picked and the outstanding quantity here is -2 and -2. So in this scenario, we are allowing for the overissue to occur. Let's move on. Just on that screen, we can at any point click on a pallet contents and we can see what is sitting on that pallet. Now, I could select done, and here you will see riteSCAN very conveniently presents me with any transactions I might want to perform. In this case, I want to perform a job issue. riteSCAN will immediately take that pallet through. I select post, and any particular warnings that exist on the job, in this case, the quantity to issue is greater than the outstanding quantity. Do you wish to continue? If I'm allowed, yes. If not, no. But here, we allowed for the creation or the pre-creation of a pallet, a staged pallet, with the various goods validated against the job, and then we simply allowed for the issue of all of those contents in a very simple, streamlined transaction. The same functionality is available to perform against sales orders and or, in general, just inventory movements. So without going into too much and further detail, pallets have really come in to simplify the operator's volume transaction posting and or simply satisfying those SYSPRO companies who use pallets in their day-to-day lives and would find it easier to transact on a pallet level. The very last thing I would like to show you is pallets are created in a number of different ways. Purchase orders, we are able to receipt directly onto pallets. In jobs, we are able to receipt directly onto pallets. Any particular transaction set, we can receipt onto a given pallet, thereby streamlining the creation and the build of a pallet within our environment. Right, so that is a general overview of pallet management in riteSCAN available to the SYSPRO community. Again, if you would like a more personalized demo or a deeper understanding of how this can work in your environment, please get hold of us on sales@trg.co.za. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in a later video set. Bye-bye.